introduce my friend Anna to you. She's a transplant from Texas. She's lived in Europe, and she has finally arrived here in Oakland. Although we are both members of this church, I didn't know her until she joined our writing group about a decade ago. And wow, she blew me away. While I would read my latest rant on something or other, she would read a chapter in her 300 plus page autobiography. While I would read a poem I had written, Anna shared 2 books for children filled with poetry, prose, and photos, most of which she took herself about wildlife. One of these books, this one, Wildlife Rhymes and Reasons, won the Moonbeam Award, an international competition, in 2015. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer, Anna gave me a book she had written about her own journey with breast cancer. But she's not resting on her laurels. Oh no, not Anna. During that first terrifying year of the pandemic, she chronicled the whole ongoing catastrophe, day by agonizing day, but not in prose in an ordinary journal. Oh no. Anna wrote about the daily news in sonnets. Yes, you heard me correctly, Shakespearean sonnets. Now, you know there are formal rules for writing sonnets. Let me review them for you. 14 lines. Now, what if all the news was limited to 14 lines? An ABAB rhyming scheme. 3 stanzas of 4 lines, and ending with 2 rhyming lines. Oh, and all that in iambic pentameter. Sometimes she would write 2 or even 3 sonnets a day, reflecting on the pandemic, political, and local news of the day, which resulted in her book, Year of the Plague Journal, Pandemic and Politics, March 2020 to March 2021. All these sonnets, a book full of them. It's a powerful documentary on a most historic year. She would email these sonnets to me, which I called my poetic news flashes. I think that this personal historical account is a must addition to your library. It's a book to be read and reread and shared with children and grandchildren and passed down to future generations to hear a first-hand account of this horrifying year. May I present this amazing poet to you who will read some of the astonishing sonnets, Ann Dabney.
Okay. I don't want that one. I'm going to see if somebody will close those doors to the front because we're getting noise from the street. Can you hear me out there? Oh, good. I know Adrian's going to do a great job. Thank you. I'll wait till they get those doors closed. Thank you so much. It's an honor and privilege to be with you today, and I've been affiliated with Montclair Presbyterian ever since the 1970s when my husband and 2 young children lived in Montclair. So my association goes way back. I was born in Corpus Christi, Texas, on the Gulf Coast during World War II. My father was a Dutch immigrant who came over in 1905 to work with cousins in the New World, and he became a citizen, and in World War I, he volunteered for hazardous duty. He was a confirmed bachelor until he met my mother, the San Antonio Rose, when he was transferred to Texas. So they had a whirlwind courtship and got married, and a few years later had me and then my brother. Even though they were an older couple, they were great parents. I was the first in our family to get a college degree, a Bachelor of Arts in English and Music, and I taught almost every grade level, but primarily secondary students for about 9 years total, 6 in the States and 3 years overseas for the Department of Defense in Turkey, Germany, and France. At my first post, I met the charming Bob Dabney, and he swept me off my feet, and within a few months, we were in love, but he was transferred to West Berlin. So for about 18 months, we had a long-distance courtship and sent letters back and forth furiously, but we did get married in Basel, Switzerland in 1965, and we were married for 20 years, and we had 2 children eventually, and had a happy marriage at that point. But we traveled all over Europe together after we were transferred to France, and we were able to travel more easily. We lived in the Metz area, and Bob worked at Chambly Air Base nearby, and we commuted to work from there. So we were heartbroken when Charles de Gaulle decided he would close the military bases and send all Americans home. We had to decide where to go, and it was a real dilemma for us because we were a mixed race couple, and this was the mid-1960s, and you had to realize that we were a little nervous about coming home to our own country, even though we'd had no problem in Europe. Well, I persuaded Bob to come to the San Francisco Bay Area where I'd visited for 2 summers, and he agreed, so we shipped our furniture to San Francisco and crossed our fingers, and it worked out great. We both found good jobs within a few months, and we were able to buy our first house within a few years, and then we had 2 children, Karen and Rob. And after our second child was born, I stayed home for a few years, and when they were both in school, I tried to get back into teaching, but there were no positions available, so I transitioned into public relations and marketing for healthcare. And my second career was the longest, 24 years in hospital public relations and marketing, and I was director of public relations at 2 East Bay hospitals. And after 10 years as an employee of the hospitals that I worked for, I started my own writing consultant business, AD Communications, and I wrote about healthcare and environmental issues primarily. So you can imagine I did have an interest in healthcare when I took up the topic of COVID-19. And there were many reasons I decided to write in the sonnet format during my isolation at home with the COVID plague around us. I wanted to challenge my brain, and the structure of the sonnet certainly does that, plus the rhyme scheme, and you still wanted it to make sense and tell the history. So then I wanted to leave a record of the pandemic for my 2 young grandchildren who were quite young when the plague first started circulating. In addition, my parents were both adults during the 1918 Spanish flu, and they never once mentioned it to me. So I didn't want that to happen to my descendants, and so I wanted to get this story on record to pass down to generations. And I've always found emotional release in writing, committing my thoughts to paper. So this was a really great medium to express strong emotion in a succinct form and feel like I had some kind of purpose when I was staying home alone. Oh, I might mention that I met, well, first of all, Bob and I divorced in 1985 after 20 years of marriage, but he and his wife, Cheryl, and I are great friends today, and when our two married kids come from Southern California with the two grandkids, we get together as one happy family, and it's just a joy to have all of us together. So the other thing is, in 1994, I was blessed to meet Victor Royer, an artist and sculptor and instructor at the university level. And he was a great influence in my getting the idea of writing in the sonnet format, because he loved Shakespeare and he would read to me all the time from the sonnets, and he had a lot of them that he recited from memory. So I finally got the courage to try one myself in 2014, and I'll be reading that one to you today. It was his favorite. But I'm going to begin with part one, which is 120 sonnets. No, I'm not reading them all. In part one, I'm just reading an assortment to try to give you an idea what the book is about. This one, Coronavirus Lament, is a rather sad vein because it was the 4th anniversary of Victor's death, and I still hadn't resolved my grief. And then we had just been told we needed to stay in for an indefinite period because of COVID. This was March of 2020. And people were emptying shelves in stores, and you couldn't get the things you needed. And as an elderly person, I was afraid to venture out. So it was a frightening time. Coronavirus Lament, March 29th, 2020. Oh, I am weary of this troubled life, yet worried that each week may be my last. Our president persists in causing strife. How can I not be anxious and downcast? The pestilence I dreaded has appeared. Around the globe it multiplies each day. Our valiant healthcare workers, as we feared, without the right protections, pass away. Without my darling, I am here alone, cut off from family and friends, yet still in touch by email and by phone. I wonder when this lethal virus ends. I pray to God my family be
I was
spared,
listening
and
to Ann
all
Dabney
those in my life for
from her
whom I've
sonnets.
cared.
But
This next sonnet is called Earth's Rebirth, and I believe it was published in the church bulletin one time. I was feeling hopeful because with commerce so vastly diminished around the globe, we were seeing signs of Earth's revitalization rapidly. May 2nd, 2020. The Earth shows us the error of our ways. Our skies are blue, not filled with choking haze. The ozone layer hole has been repaired. Wild creatures venture forth that had not dared. Astounding vistas lost can now be seen. Canals in Venice. The hills and valleys once more are serene. Canals in Venice are restored to clear. And aircraft overhead we rarely hear. How rapidly did nature make her case? The gift of Eden we must not deface. Mankind must reinvent the way we live, or nature may refuse one day to give. Let's heed the lessons of our Mother Earth, give thanks to God, and celebrate her worth. Can you hear me okay? I'm having trouble seeing my copy and speaking into the mic too. Is that better? Okay, thanks. This one I wrote during the George Floyd protests around the country and even internationally after he was murdered. And it was called Dare to Hope, June 3rd, 2020. My heart is aching. My heart is beating with new hope today that racial justice may not be a dream, which unachieved will shortly fade away as protest ends with rule of law supreme. These peaceful movements show a different face from those of more than 50 years ago. We witness young and old, a varied race, who come together in a common show. They brave the tear gas and projectile shot while COVID plague surrounds them in the air. They take a knee or lie prostrate, though hot. May God protect them with the masks they wear. Small bands of looters strike when dark descends, but others intervene to see it ends. June 17th, 2020. Gratitude. What cause have I to feel sad or lament? Compared to some, I'm in a favored space. I have supplies and food that I need sent, so I don't have to venture from my place. I've reached the age to pace myself, retired. Each day I walk or write or watch TV. I have no job where I risk being fired. My writer friends each week reach out to me. I'm glad to have a roof above my head with homelessness and hunger all around. I've no young children that I must keep fed. My bed is cozy and my sleep is sound. I'm blessed with good health and my family. When COVID risk is gone, they'll visit me. June 18th, 2020. The things I miss. What do I miss in a time such as this? A body massage, a hug, and a kiss. Without the mask, warm greetings and a smile. My hairdresser's magic, she knows my style. My house sparkling clean in just a few hours. A guest here for dinner who brings me flowers. A walk with a friend while close to each other. A visit here from my Texas brother. Hearing live music in a concert hall. Planning a trip to take place in the fall. Singing old hymns in my church on Sundays. Writers group meetings and feedback on Mondays. One day we'll emerge from this harsh nightmare as we lay aside fear and show we care. July 13th, 2020, the Education Catastrophe. I want to add that my daughter was a high school principal at this point who had done most of her work remotely that first year. And her husband, Bill, was home supervising the kids and did a great job. But the school districts were all trying to decide whether to send the kids back into the classrooms or keep them home for another year of virtual learning. It was a tense time. I'm fretting for the children of this land who may return to education soon. It's vital that we get this pestilence in hand with complex plans that public schools fine-tune. I understand what parents must endure. How can they work if young kids learn from home? But uppermost in mind, they must ensure the safety of their children and their own. This plague is wrecking our society in countless ways we've never seen before. The stress can trigger loss of one's sobriety with layoffs, hunger, evictions, and more. Our nation could have known a kinder fate. if those in charge had not responded late. Nature's warning. I wrote this on September 9th, 2020, and I think most of you will remember that bizarre day. Mother Nature glowers above today. Bright orange clouds like twilight are prevailing. Vast wildfires spew thick smoke from miles away. The message loud and clear, our earth is ailing. Why don't we heed the threat of global warming when scientists direct us to change course? This crisis now at hand had ample warning. Protections we have now, Trump won't enforce. Fine ash like snow is falling on our landscape. Poor quality of air keeps us inside. We must conserve and start to innovate, or soon discover there's no place to hide. Has our COVID focus weakened resolve to address climate issues we must solve? September 20th, 2020. Rest in peace, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The notorious RBG is dead. Our nation is in a state of mourning. This sad event fills progressives with dread, though her cancer's return gave us warning. Ginsburg was a champion of women's rights to reproductive choice and equal pay. This feisty woman led principled fights that she argued with skill to win the day. The shameless Republicans could not wait for 2 hours after she took her last breath to announce what she feared would be her fate. They would soon fill the seat left by her death. Our nation has reached a crossroads today. We must fight to preserve our USA. November 3rd, 2020, Election Day. I was feeling optimistic. This day we dreamed of has at last arrived, when we can restore what in the past thrived, our exceptional land of liberty, a shining beacon of diversity. My heart beats faster today with great pride. The voice of the people cannot be denied. We've learned to treasure our legacy. Let's again light our lamp for the world to see. After stress and worries of the past 4 years, let us put away strong hatreds and fears. We have learned hard lessons we mustn't forget. The world will see our future is bright yet. Today, Our Lady Liberty has smiled. The vast majority can't be beguiled. Well, I thought later I should have named it Election Week instead of Election Day. It took so long to get all the votes tabulated. And here we're into a different year. January 10th, 2021. Heartache at the Capitol. My heart aches for the country I love and brave defenders who withstood the mob. Our nation's leaders were protected from above. Despite great duress, Mike Pence did his job. They hid under desks and donned a gas mask before being led to a safer place, vowing to come back to complete their task. Not all wore a face mask in the tight space. What courage they showed to return to their hall to resume vote counts and confirm Biden's win. After the building was secured by nightfall, while horrors they went through still haunted within. Today they honored the officer who died. His family can view his actions with pride. Officer Brian Sicknick, 42, gave his life defending our capital. He died of his injuries after being assaulted during the mob's rampages. 1/20/2021, January 20th. Inauguration. A few gray clouds and traces of snowflakes set the stage for Inauguration Day. Our civic life is overdue for retakes, with new direction just installed today. A burst of bright sun soon broke through the gloom, illuminating change now taking place. Our nation teetered on the edge of doom when our hallowed capital was defaced. Biden spoke to all of us from his heart. He pledged transparency, to be truthful. Let's listen to each other, make a new start. We need to unite so change can be useful. The insurrection Trump incited failed. Our better angels have always prevailed. February 10th, 2021, Goodman Goodman. Officer Goodman lived up to his name. Defending the Capitol earned him fame. He bravely deflected the crazed insurgents by taking smart actions as diversions. He lured them away from the Senate's hall. Quick thinking and action had saved them all as senators and staffers slipped away, evacuated down the vacant hallway. He modestly didn't seek recognition, just acting in his policeman position. His family's safety entered his mind, not placing them in a dangerous bind. A medal of gold has been awarded to honor him for the mayhem thwarted. And that was a pretty unanimous vote at that point to award him a gold medal. It was encouraging. Love of country, February 12th, 2021. This one is for my father. I feel an ardent love of my country passed on by my immigrant dad to me. He arrived in New York in 1905 to work with cousins. With faith, he could thrive. His dreams were fulfilled in our bountiful land. He gave back in serving when there was demand. Carl volunteered for duty in Eastern France in World War I with the Allies' advance. Today, when I see our republic at stake, I ponder what course our nation will take. My love for this country has never been stronger. May it flourish for centuries longer. True democracies in this world are rare. We must protect and defend ours with care. Higher education, February 21st, 2021. Community college should be cost-free, the best tonic for our democracy. More education is being required. For better jobs, it's needed to be hired. Strange conspiracies are widely believed. More schooling could result in fewer deceived. With society so much more complex today, a need for more learning is here to stay. When QAnon believers taint our house, it's hard to fathom theories they espouse. Standards should be met to run for Congress. We need those with qualities that impress. Ability to pay shouldn't hold youth back. More education would provide skills they lack. Getting close to the end now, part one. Endurance, February 25th, 2021. That year began with feeling so alone, yet meeting each crisis, I think I've grown. When suddenly compelled to isolate, I felt inadequate, bemoaned my fate. Though I've not seen my family all year, on Zoom they speak and magically appear. I order groceries by Instacart. Our writers' meetings are still heart to heart. I've lived through power loss and deadly smoke, with air outside that made me cough and choke, through home upgrades and needed renovations, the worst dreading quick evacuations. Since COVID broke out, I've not just survived, it's possible that in some ways I've thrived. Reunion, the last poem I'm reading in section 1. March 24th, 2021. My heart was overflowing with gladness, with vaccines helping to end my sadness. I hugged my 2 grandchildren, grown so tall. We last met in 2019 in fall. Little Mia, always lithe and limber, and Will, precocious as I remember. They are thriving despite remote learning. Seeing my daughter fulfilled my yearning. One day, COVID will silently retreat. Getting vaccines in arms, an amazing feat. We must help create mass immunity to restore our broken community. We can't yet relax all cautious protections till more get vaccines to stop infections. When I wrote this book, Year of the Plague Journal, I didn't expect it to go on and on and on, especially after the arrival of vaccines. But if you saw the front page of the East Bay Times today, the whole page said 1 million dead from COVID-19. It didn't have to be this way. If everybody had responded responsibly like the Bay Area, 650,000 of those people would still be alive. That's heartbreaking. In part 2, Love and Loss Sonnets written for my partner, Victor, I'll read 3 of them today. The first 2 were his favorites, and the third I wrote after he died, 5 years after he died. So this was my first attempt in writing a love sonnet for Valentine's Day. Will you still love me? The summer face you knew when we first met is now reflecting autumn's golden hue. You tell me that my beauty lingers yet. My mind and body still appeal to you. But when my locks have changed to winter white, my body weak or mind be clouded o'er, and though my daily discourse may seem trite, will you still love me as you did before? And should a curving spine decrease my height or cause my steps to falter on their way, would you still see my face with some delight and tell me you are here with me to stay? And if one day I can't recall your name, Would your affection still remain the same? He gave me a resounding yes. Love is ageless. I wrote this to him a year later, and he was giving me hints that he wouldn't be with me much longer because he was feeling changes in his body, although the doctors didn't detect them in time. He was getting pancreatic cancer, and we didn't know till the last 2 or 3 weeks of his life that he had it, and it was way too late. So he would recite to me Shakespeare's Sonnet number 3 about how his end was drawing near. And this was my response to him: love is ageless. To hear you speak such somber words of late brings fear and dread of our impending fate. You lifted my battered body and soul, and with an artist's hands you made me whole. I see you as my brilliant guiding star, and I am most contented where you are. Your face, now fringed with beard of snowy white, gives comfort in first rays of morning light. Though hands lose strength and gaits decrease in stride, the wellspring of our youth remains inside. I ask, do not decry our altered state. I'll love you to the end, my cherished mate. Our eyes may dim, our passion may subside, but I will always want you by my side. He was gone a year later. California Springtime, this is the last one that I'm reading today, and I wrote this about 5 years after Victor died, and so this one is for you, Victor. I was finally able to appreciate spring again. Oh, the joy of spring with fragrance in the breeze that caresses petals of budding fruit trees. Poppies and daffodils bloom all around, and soon blue iris will poke through the ground. Mockingbirds tune up to attract a mate. Emerald hummingbirds are migrating late. In the springtime, thoughts may turn to romance, but I lack a partner to join in that dance. I have no desire to find someone new. None would compare with the partner I knew. In Victor, I found true compatibility, one who proved his strong devotion to me. I've had a sweetheart who made me feel cherished. The love I knew with him has not perished. Let me express my gratitude to Montclair Presbyterian Church for hosting me today, and to my writers group, Margaret Irvin's group, that I've been affiliated with since about 2007. And for all the people in my writers group who encouraged me during the darkest times and made me feel that perhaps I should publish this. And there were times that I doubted it, but I went ahead with their enthusiasm. And I want to thank Noel Moritz, who helped to set this up, and also Adrian Santos for the sound system today, doing such a great job and staying over after the main service. And thank you for my wonderful audience. And if you have any questions or comments, I would love to try to answer them or respond in some way. And I might mention that the books today I have for sale for a special discounted rate for $10 each, no tax. And they're available at Walden Pond Books, the Book Tree in Montclair, and Amazon.com. But at those other venues, they're $13.98 plus tax. So if you want to buy today, it's a good opportunity. And then I have 4 of my animal photo books, a hardcover and a soft cover of both books. And Blurb is offering a 40% off discount right now, and that's the only time I can afford to buy those books because they're full color, huge color prints, and they're so expensive to print. So if you would like to buy any of those 4 books I have today, I have extras and I can sell those. Or if you want to order one, the sale will be on through Thursday of this next week, so you can think about it, but let me know. I'm in the Realm directory and you can get in touch with me. Oh, boy. Any questions or comments?
You're amazing. English was not my subject, but when you read it, it's how you read it too. You have this beautiful way of expressing, and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I practiced and practiced and practiced. I almost had them all memorized. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing this special day with me, and I'm hoping that my daughter and her husband and my grandkids will be watching. If not now, they'll tune in with the link later, and so maybe Bob and Cheryl will watch that too, because he was a big part of my life, and I'll always care for him. So anyway, I'll be happy to sign any books if you decide, and we have change for 20s, or if you need change. Thank you. It was mainly just the opportunity to present my work that drew me to do this, because I love to read my work. Thank you.